and welcome to the Yellowjackets Hive. I am Media Melanie here with,
And I am Emily.
and we are very pleased to bring you our first official episode on our new Yellowjackets podcast. We are going to talk about the symbol. But before we dive into the symbol, we thought we would just recap some important Yellowjackets news. Of course, season 3 has already been picked up before season 2 even airs. That is incredible news, Emily.
Yeah, they're definitely looking like full steam ahead with this show in the aspect that like this is going to be more than like 1 or 2 seasons. Like they definitely are trying to get things in order, I feel like, because like we were discussing before, this is like a highly serialized show with an ensemble cast now, and there are so many moving parts to it that in order to like nail everybody down for even for filming and stuff like that, I feel like they have to schedule like way ahead of time now.
They do. They've definitely got their hands full with a very busy and strategic production schedule. So I think that news about season 3 was highly welcome. In addition, we heard that season 2 will be streaming on March 24th. And I don't know about you, but I am counting down the days.
Yes, absolutely. It feels so far away, but I feel like at the same time it's going to go by so fast.
Yes, absolutely. And, fortunately, we've got some time to do Yellowjackets rewatch before season 2 starts.
Yeah.
Showtime will actually be running a linear marathon on December 26th. And we thought it would be a fun opportunity to tweet along and watch along with them. So we will be on Twitter that day, live tweeting during some of the marathon. We will come up with the hashtag to use. We'll share that all with you. And while we're there, we may as well do a giveaway as well. So mark your calendars for December 26th. We will be participating in the marathon and also doing a giveaway. So super fun.
I'm pretty sure the marathon starts at 12 Eastern time.
Okay.
So it'll start at 9 your time if I'm correct. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, that makes sense. I will be enjoying my coffee along with the marathon. And they'll also be replaying episodes between December 21st and early January. So there are plenty of opportunities to rewatch. And of course, we'll be doing some season 1 recap and reaction episodes during our rewatch to make sure everybody gets caught up sufficiently before season 2 starts.
Yep. There's so many details to discuss.
Absolutely. And, speaking of season 2, we're putting up a promo photo here of all of the girls. They appear to be looking at something glowing on the cabin exterior. It's snowy. Coach Ben actually has like a full beard. Natalie's hair's pretty long. Shauna looks a little more pregnant.
Crystal's in there too.
Yep, Crystal's in there. So we've got to assume a little bit of time passed, probably since Jackie's death. However, I think a lot of people are speculating that that glow they're looking at could be, burning Jackie's body. It could be a cremation. Maybe her body sat outside in the snow and they finally decided to cremate it, or maybe it's somebody else that's burning in the fire. What do you think, Emily?
I've seen speculation on Reddit that a lot of people think that, like, you know how when we saw the last deer that they killed, when they cut it open, it was like all full of maggots and it was like clearly very sick. Some people are speculating that like all the animals in that area of the wilderness are similar to that deer, and they might have killed another animal for food and realized that that animal was no good, so they burned it. Like that's a big theory that's going around on Reddit right now too.
Yeah,
so it could be an animal. It might not even be a person.
That's true. It does appear to be some kind of fire, though. I think that's safe to assume given the glow and the snow. So, we're looking forward to seeing more season 2 promos, hopefully a trailer. Maybe they'll drop it on December 26th. We will have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Ooh, cannot wait. So,
another teaser would be nice. Like, just like a little teaser.
Yeah, we don't need a lot. Like, just give us little breadcrumbs, right? And the
Yeah.
other thing is the Rune crate that Showtime sent us very kindly, along with those amazing Letterman jackets. There's some audio on that, right? Like, there's a track of some girls screaming and yelling, and I wonder if that's an actual soundbite from season 2, right?
To me, it sounded like the way that they were screaming during Doomcoming.
Oh, okay,
Like when
that
they
makes
made those
sense,
animal noises, like right before they started chasing Travis through the woods.
right?
It sounded similar to that, but I have a feeling that's going to be something that we see repeated again. I don't think that's a one-time thing.
Right. And for them to use that as the audio in the Rune crate, I think is very telling. So you're probably right, as you are with many Yellowjackets things, because you really are the ultimate citizen detective, Emily.
I try.
Yes, yes, and we all appreciate that very, very much. So let's dive into the symbol. Before we get into all the nitty gritty, though, we should point out that Showtime actually sells the Rune in their store. We're putting up the Showtime store link at the bottom of our screen here. So, head over to the store, pick up some Yellowjackets gear for yourself. I know I've got a few of these items on my Christmas list this year, Emily, and
Same.
yes, yes. So hopefully, hopefully our Christmas wishes will come true and we will be all decked out in Yellowjacket stuff. And
Yeah.
again, we're doing a giveaway as well, some Showtime merch for December 26th. So don't miss
Yes.
that. Yes. Okay. So the symbol. We ran a poll on Twitter and we asked people, what do you think the rune or symbol is all about? Protection, a warning, or something else? And what was the top answer, Emily?
It was protection, and honestly, I'm really surprised that warning didn't get a single vote because before we started theorizing about it being protection, like we were kind of convinced that it was a warning. At least I was.
Absolutely. I mean, and it could be a warning for anything. However, I think the simplest explanation, something we've seen on Reddit, this one is from No Sleep for You. They could be old markings from hunters and trappers from the abandoned cabin to navigate the area. Or, perhaps warnings created by previous inhabitants to warn about, maybe a trap that was built. We know the pit is built there. Or, it could be some kind of symbol about the animals that live there, or maybe an impaled person or an impaled animal.
Yeah, I had a crazy thought before that like the symbol could possibly be showing like what happens when you fall into the pit. Like the long line through the body of the symbol could be the pit, like could be the stakes or spikes, whatever you want to call them. And the two short ones are obviously the arms. The hook would be the person hanging upside down when they're being bled out. And obviously the circle would be the head. But
Yeah.
that thought crossed my mind. And I know we talked about that a while ago too.
We did, yes, yes. And even just with the show in general, symbology is a really, big theme. We see a lot of symbology with, the wolves, with the deer, animal skins. Also, the mentions of trigonometry, which is something, people were saying maybe it's this like sacred, trigonometry situation. But, as the fandom pointed out in one of the interviews, thanks, by the way, to Ash on Twitter for getting us the article. Um, Ashley and Bart talk about there's a lot of breadcrumbs and clues they put into the show, but with the trigonometry, they just said they hated trigonometry
Yeah.
in school, and it's more of a joke. So, that trigonometry rabbit hole, they kind of debunked and said, that was an inside joke from the writers' room. But an interesting thing they said as well was that there are a few little breadcrumbs that were in there that nobody's picked up on. So it's interesting to
Hmm.
see what people are latching onto and what they're noticing and not noticing. So I want to know what other breadcrumbs she's talking about. Like,
Same.
what haven't we picked up on yet?
I feel like we picked up on everything.
I mean, right? So, maybe when we do our rewatch, that's something that we can, just be more aware of and see if, there are little things that we missed. Although I do think our community has been very eagle-eyed in terms of catching some of these things. So,
Yeah.
Yes. And I believe that article was from like earlier in 2022. So since then, I think the fandom's dived even deeper into a lot of this stuff. And we see the symbol a few times during season 1, right? We see it on the tree where Rachel is buried. We see it in just a slightly different iteration on the cabin floor. So the cabin floor one is like it's surrounded in a circle, which is interesting. What do you make of that?
I think it had like the most logical explanation I feel like would be it's from a candle. Like, because why else would Misty, when she sees Travis's autopsy pictures, even suggest that those black smudges could be wax stains if they didn't put candles, if candles didn't somehow factor into it? And it almost looked like it was candle wax that was on the floor too. So maybe the whole candle thing didn't even start with them. Maybe the hunter had some weird ritual that he did that involved the symbol too.
Yeah, I mean that, that makes a lot of sense. We also see the rune on Nat's kidnapper's necklace at the end of season 1. We also see it on the postcard, which, fortunately, again, thank you, Showtime. We got our own little postcard versions, and, it is definitely something that we saw on the postcard as well.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, Travis's autopsy scene, as you had mentioned, Misty puts all the pictures together like she's doing a survivor puzzle and somehow knows that it forms the symbol, which to me is like highly sus because
so sus.
Who can put that together unless you knew that it was a puzzle to be put together, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I go back to like Misty would be the ultimate survivor contestant because like she needs to be on the puzzle team. Like that's incredible. I mean, that she can put that together. So for me, highly sus. It really makes me question Misty. And I mean, gosh, we have so many questions about Misty anyway. So yes. And we also saw the symbol in the season 2 teaser sewn into a quilt with some blood on it. What do we think about this?
Oh man, I feel like the fabric, it obviously looks like 2 different pieces of fabric stitched together. So, number 1, where do they even get the stuff to sew while they're out there? That's my first question.
Good
And
question.
number 2, is it from clothing, like from people that died that they're using and they're stitching it all together? Because the blood makes me think maybe it could be related to Shauna and Shauna having her baby.
Right. I thought that too. Maybe it's a baby blanket. Maybe it was used to deliver the baby. But I feel like this photo looks more like they're actually sewing it. So if the blood's on the blanket, like while they're sewing it, what else was the blanket used for and how did that blood get there?
Unless the blood was like already on that piece of fabric and they used it anyways, but that still doesn't explain how it got there.
Right. Yeah, I find that very interesting, and I cannot wait to see some clarification on that as we get to season 2. And, we should also mention that our committed fandom is also getting the symbol tattooed on themselves, in addition to Showtime having some of the merch with the symbol on it as well. We love to see in the Facebook discussion group people going all in on Yellowjackets, and this is a perfect example.
Yes, that is a dedicated fan right there.
Yes, absolutely love that. Okay, so I think something important to mention about the symbol is that Showtime refers to it as a rune, right? So it made the most sense to us to really look into runes and define them. So what are runes? Here's a definition. Runes.
Oh, go ahead.
You go. You go. Okay. Runes are ancient alphabets. The word rune comes from an Old Norse term meaning a secret letter that was used for casting spells. Writing itself was often seen as magic by other peoples who had no writing systems of their own. So it can be a mark or letter of mysterious or magic significance. Runes can also be small stones, pieces of bone that are bearing runes and used as divine symbols. The casting of runes is like casting a spell, apparently. So,
Mhm.
Emily, tell us the purpose of runes.
So, runes were used to write various Germanic languages with some exceptions before they adopted the Latin alphabet and for specialized purposes thereafter. In addition to representing a sound value, runes can be used to represent the concept after which they are named, which is also referred to as an ideograph. What I also found interesting about them was, um, oh, I just totally lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's all good. You know what? I'll pick it up because what I did was I pulled the rune alphabet, the Norse rune alphabet, and looked at it and the symbols. And to me, the rune, the symbol from Showtime, doesn't really readily match any of those symbols. So for me, that means that they're using rune in a more general term, and it probably doesn't coincide with a specific rune alphabet. The
Yeah.
Wiccan alphabet also has a lot of symbols that, could be potentially related to the symbol. Again, there's not necessarily one that completely fits. So I think they're using the rune as, its own meaning, which of course we haven't heard yet, in a more generalized way.
Yeah.
And, maybe it does not directly tie in. It's just more in a general sense.
I remembered what I wanted to say.
Love it.
um, so I found it really interesting. In one of the articles that I read, they said that runes can also be talismans, which
Ooh.
I thought was super interesting because Lottie makes that necklace for Van and they refer to it as a talisman. And she says it's to keep you safe. Like she specifically says it's to keep her safe, which we all know it didn't work because Thaisa took it from her and put it on herself. But maybe if Thaisa never took that, maybe Van would have never gotten attacked if it really was some sort of like protection.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. And the fact that we see, a talisman presented in the show in general is interesting. So it goes back to, maybe it is a symbol of protection, or not. We've still got a little bit more to cover on it. But as with the show, there's just so many directions that everything can go. And it's our job to speculate and theorize, and we're very committed to doing that.
Yeah,
So we're going to keep doing it until we have the answers that satisfy us.
absolutely.
Yes. And in terms of another code system that has been talked about on Reddit, hobo codes. Emily, tell us a little bit about what hobo codes are.
So hobo code was used, it like became really popular back from what I've read back in like the 1920s. There were a lot of transient individuals at that point in time across the country. So it was really big for homeless people that were traveling by train. They would leave symbols near train tracks to show like um, this house has a nice owner, like food can be found here. Don't go here, dogs here, like all very all geared to send a message to anyone else that would come across it. But you would have to be familiar with the code in order to understand it, obviously. So I kind of thought that the symbol looked like a lot of hobo code symbols all thrown together. And as you can see in this Reddit post by WinterYak9031, they obviously speculated the same. They drew a bunch of all the different colors that you see in this picture are all different individual hobo code symbols, and they're all thrown together. So as you can see, the blue circle indicates nothing to be gained here. The yellow triangle with the two arms means man with a gun lives here, which we all know the man in the cabin had a gun. So that could obviously be directed towards him. The line below that says alcohol here, which I found really interesting because we all know that Natalie finds that bottle of alcohol underneath the porch the night of Doomcoming, and she shares it with Coach. Then there's the bottom, the hook, which I think is the most interesting one out of the entire thing. it either indicates halt or stop. And right directly next to that, the bottom of the triangle and the other arm indicates a beating awaits you here, which,
Oof.
I mean, they've said we're going to get the hunter's backstory eventually. So that makes me think, like, if they really are going the shining aspect with this man, like I heard them say, then a beating awaits you here. Like, that's not a unrealistic thing to happen or for us to see. If he really was, like, if he really did go off the deep end, say he had a family and he abused them, maybe he even killed them. Like, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We love, excuse me, we love our cabin daddy, and we definitely hope to get another backstory. It's our plan to have Will, who played cabin daddy in season 1, back on the podcast, so we can talk to him a little about his experience in season 1 and whether or not he has heard anything for season 2. So that is on our radar. And you just mentioned, maybe he was some kind of a killer, right? Another route that we kind of went down a little bit was about Robert Hansen. So Robert Hansen was a serial killer. He was nicknamed the Butcher Baker. And I think it's interesting, Butcher, because of course we have the Butcher excuse me, in the Cannibal Council in season 1. So,
Yep.
that's interesting. But also, Robert Hansen's trophy case featured many different archery trophies featuring antlers. So there's some antler symbology
Oh, yeah.
with Robert Hansen, which I find to be interesting. But the
Mhm.
most compelling is that, he had a rough childhood, as many serial killers do. But over time, he became an avid game hunter and he channeled his rage into stalking animals, which later turned into stalking women. And he actually he started killing in 1972, and he would pick up prostitutes, force them at gunpoint in her car, in his car, maybe rape or torture them, and then he would fly them to a secluded spot and hunt them like animals. I mean, does this seem like something that could possibly be tied in?
That is just like, that is crazy that he actually managed to force women into an airplane and took them out into the middle of nowhere and then released them only to hunt them like wild game. And obviously, we tie that to Yellowjackets because we know the hunter had a plane. We know that the cabin was really secluded, and we don't know exactly what this symbol means yet. So the symbol could be tied to him and hunting, possibly. Like, these are all speculations that we're making and assumptions, and hopefully we'll eventually find out. But he also, which I feel like was the most interesting thing about him when he was caught by police, when they searched his house, they found a map of Alaska behind his headboard. And on the map were markings where bodies were found. And they eventually used that map to locate victims that they didn't even know existed. But he marked them with X's, like, and they've been referred to as symbols and markings. So the fact that they refer to symbols in relation to him really also makes me think that, like, there could be something to this theory.
Absolutely. I mean, Ashley and Bart have pulled from different things. Something we'll get into in a second is the Donner Party and the cannibalism and all of that. So, they've said they've pulled from the book Hunger. So maybe they're also pulling from, other serial killers and just kind of interweaving the story into their own narrative, which, I mean, again, they are so talented to come up with this 5-season incredible show. Like, the talent behind knowing when to use red herrings, when not to, these breadcrumbs, like, they're just so genius. So
Yeah.
genius. Yes.
I mean, they've only given us one season, and look at all of the, like, theories that have come up and the speculation, and it's insane, like, how the fandom has just taken every little detail and analyzed the heck out of it.
Absolutely. And it's been so much fun. Just, being a part of the community. We've made so many friends and connections. And, it's been nice for some of the fans to reach out to us, when we started this new podcast. So thanks to everybody that's here listening and following. We appreciate your support.
Yeah.
So another theory about the symbol was their cannibalistic cult ritual. What have you read about that?
Okay, so another common theory is that the symbol can be interpreted as depicting someone hung upside down, like we talked about a little bit earlier, with the circle being the head, the triangle being the body, the lines being the arms, and the hook being the way in which the girl was strung up while bled out. But if it was already there, then who was performing this ritual before? Or did they adapt it and make it their own ritual?
Right. I mean, we've talked about the fact that in the Canadian wilderness, there are some abandoned underground mines, perhaps underground tunnels, and that's something we see in Lottie's vision. So I
Yeah.
don't think it's out of the realm to believe that there could be other people out there with them. Not
Yeah.
to mention, Showtime updated their Twitter bio to say they weren't alone out there. So that could go a couple directions. It could mean there were actually other people existing somewhere out there. Maybe that's who Javi found and was able to seek shelter with, or they could be referring to supernatural. So it's one of these like double entendres where, we don't know, but we do know for a fact that they weren't alone out there,
Yeah.
whatever that means.
I
So
agree. I think it's either there were other people or they're leaning towards it being like a supernatural meaning. I definitely think it's one of the two.
yep, absolutely. And, along with the cannibalistic cult ritual, we did see in the trailer for season 2, the writing of I love you on somebody's arm. I think this is maybe related to Travis and Nat. What do you think?
I definitely think that could be possible. Also, because in the finale, before they go to the reunion, Misty is asking Natalie if she'll come. And I don't remember the exact quote, but Natalie says something like, "What do you want, a blood oath from me?" So as soon as I saw that picture, my mind immediately went to that quote, like immediately. But using some of my citizen detective skills, I was looking at the promo picture that they released and the outfits that everybody was wearing, and the sleeve of the person that's arm is being drawn on. It looks like there's like a red piece of fabric coming out from underneath their sleeve. And if you look closely at Crystal's sleeves, she's wearing
Mm.
something red underneath her jacket. So I thought maybe it could be Crystal's arm because it also
Oh.
the arm also looks like it's a little bit tanner as well. So I was thinking either Crystal or maybe it could be Thaisa and Van.
Oh, interesting. I mean, it really could go either way. Hey, in the season 2 trailer, did we see somebody carving the symbol or writing the symbol as well? Was that in there?
They were like you see it being carved into a tree. I know that, but
Right.
I don't think it was anything other than that.
Okay. And we couldn't tell who was carving it. I would
Mhm.
suspect Lottie if I'm just like throwing guesses out in the wind, but.
Well, she's definitely the one in that teaser when you see the symbol being drawn on the window. She's definitely the one that's drawing it on the window for sure.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, if they're featuring the symbol slash rune so heavily in the season 2 promo material, it makes me think that, maybe we'll actually have an answer for the symbol slash rune's meaning in season 2.
I hope so.
I hope
I
so too.
feel like it's something they could make us speculate about for a long time if they wanted to, though.
Absolutely. 100%. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not we do get the answer in season 2 or in season 3, since we know that there's a season 3. Props to Yellowjackets for getting picked up before the second season even airs for a third season. I still can't believe that. It's like mind blowing.
I don't think I've ever heard of a show that had that happen before.
I don't think so either. I'll have to do a little more research, but yeah, I mean it's like very very exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's a recasting for season 2, not to get off topic too much, but we did hear in Sammi Hanratty's story that they've recast Tequila.
I think her name is Naya. I can't remember her last name, but yeah, I'm really curious as to why that happened. I know we've discussed this because we actually kind of discussed this with Cabin Daddy before too, when we were talking about the possibility of him being in season 2. And he said that um, there's always a possibility of being recast, which we see happened with one character. So maybe it will happen with another. I just found it's one thing to recast after the pilot episode. Like we saw Kevin Tan's character change. After the pilot, the young Kevin Tan was played by a different actor in the pilot episode and then played by another one in the second episode. And it's not as noticeable with only one episode, but a whole season to recast somebody is just like, it's not very common. So
it's not common. I'm trying to think of others where they've done that. I feel like Riverdale might be one where I think that Reggie, one of the characters, ended up going over to 13 Reasons Why, so they had to recast his
okay.
Riverdale character, or it was vice versa. But I believe that's like the only other example that I could think of, like top of my head.
Did you
So
ever watch Shameless?
oh my gosh, I loved Shameless, which Sammi Hanratty's in, of course.
They recast the kid that played Liam in like one of the really late seasons. Like I can't remember which season it was, but he was played by the same kid for like the first 5 or 6 seasons. And then the next season they recast him and he looked completely different. Like no,
Oh.
looked nothing alike.
Huh. Gosh, I don't know if I remember that. It's been a while since I've watched, but gosh, what another great Showtime show. I
Mhm.
loved Shameless. It might be in my top 10 shows of all time. Like,
It
I love the
definitely is amazing.
Gallaghers.
Yeah.
Love the Gallaghers. Fiona was definitely my favorite. Like, loved her. When she left the show, Emmy Rossum, I was like really sad.
Lip was always my favorite.
Oh, I love Lip. And of course, his new show, The Bear on Hulu, is
Yeah.
it's
I
very
still haven't
exceptional.
watched that. I
Oh
need
my
to watch.
God. Emily, you need to watch The Bear. It's so good. You'll burn through it super fast, easy to watch. Like if you love Lip, you will love The Bear. So watch
I'll
it.
definitely check it out.
Yes. Okay, back to the symbol. There is another theory about it being a mathematical map. Emily, tell us about that theory.
This popular theory suggests that the symbol is a mathematic equation that, if solved correctly, can not only tell the girls where they are in reference to civilization, but it could also help them escape, which is crazy. In this way, the symbol was never necessarily intended for the girls, but for whoever became stuck in this area of the wilderness. If it truly is a map for their bearings, then the Yellowjackets symbol never had any supernatural connection until the girls arrived, with Lottie likely adopting it for her cult and assigning a meaning itself.
Yeah, I mean, that could definitely be another theory. I went down some rabbit holes last night,
Ooh, do tell.
particularly on the Reddit of, let's see, what is it? She is, here, it's coming back up. Oh, IF Corona. I'm putting the link here at the bottom, but oh my goodness, like this whole Reddit thread was so interesting to me because it talked a lot about technical things that I actually had kind of a hard time wrapping my head around, but it talked about, things like sextants, which is something that
Mhm,
I never thought about in terms of the symbol. So, a
mhm,
sextant is actually an instrument with a graduated arc of 60 degrees and a sighting mechanism that is used for measuring angular distances between objects, and especially for taking altitudes in navigation. So, if you look at a sextant, I mean, it looks very similar to the symbol in terms of
yeah,
it has like a round part on the top, which looks like the head. It has like a little mechanism on the bottom, which could be construed as a hook. It
mhm,
has the 2 little glass filters on the side, which look a little bit like the arms. So it's interesting because what if the symbol really is some way for them to like measure where they are and navigate, right?
yeah,
I mean, that's something I didn't think of. And in this thread, it talked a lot about occultism. Well, okay, I need to pronounce this correctly.
calculation,
Occultation.
occultation, okay,
Occultation. OCCULTATION.
okay,
In terms of sextant. So apparently, this is when, let's see, what is the definition of that? It's when one celestial body covers up another. And apparently, there's certain times that you can achieve, or it's easier to make these type of measurements with a sextant during an occultation, when the two celestial bodies are over each other. Um,
would that mean like when the moon overlaps something else?
I believe so. So
Yeah.
the Reddit user said when they started searching for information on occultation, longitude, and sextant, there were a lot of images of converging lines, triangles, and circles that reminded them a lot of the
Mm,
symbol.
okay.
Um, and then the let's see, there's a part in the notes I'm just looking for here. Bear with me for just a second. Okay, so apparently during 1997, there was a Saturn led occultation by the moon. And during that time, of course, the Yellowjackets were trapped out in the wilderness. And it's interesting that the Saturn Roman deity devoured his children, which I guess is
Mm,
depicted on this painting by Goya. But apparently, the timing of this 1997 occultation could coincide with an easier measurement using the symbol to help them navigate out of there. Now, again, there's like a lot of technical things within this. I encourage you to go read the thread, it is so informative.
yeah.
There's also talk about like bees and how they use this certain type of navigation, and how
Oh,
the
really?
episode was named The Flight of the Bumblebee,
Yeah.
and it's called I think it's called like it sounds like Phoenix. By the way, shout out to Phoenix, one of our friends of the show. But anyway, go read this Reddit thread. Again, the link is at the bottom, but it talks a lot about these sextants and occultations and like these really technical things navigation wise. So go down that rabbit hole. I highly encourage it. Very informative.
Yeah. There's a
But
lot in there. A
there
lot.
is a lot in there. But the main thing I took out of it was that the symbol looks like a sextant. And to me, that means that perhaps there's a way they can actually measure themselves in terms of like where civilization is, or maybe it's, showing them where they are in some fashion.
You
I don't
know
know.
what else that makes me think of, like the sextant and the fact that it could be like a map or directions, is Adam's tattoo on his back.
Oh my God, I know. I mean, we've talked about that as well. Like, why would they specifically create such a tattoo and put it on the actor, in every scene that he's in, or every time we see the tattoo, if there wasn't some special meaning behind
Yeah.
it?
There are mountains in the tattoo, there are circles, like I'm pretty sure there's triangles. And like you said, this person said that when they were researching this, they saw a lot of pictures of lines converging with triangles and circles. And that is like the gist of the tattoo.
Right.
So that makes me think even more. Like I know they said, oh, Adam's a red herring, but I don't know if I truly believe that.
Right. And there is the possibility the tattoo was simply put there as a means of identifying his
Yeah.
body, and,
Yeah.
somehow getting the girls on the hook for his murder. But I mean, maybe not, but maybe it is all tied in. I mean, he did at one point say, that him and Shauna should go to the cabin in the Poconos, which I've always found to be highly sus.
Yeah. That
So
you don't ask a girl that was traumatically stranded in the wilderness for 2 years to go spend time out in the woods.
you
Sorry.
absolutely do not do that. It's just not a thing.
No.
And before we move on to the next one, just one more quick note on the occultation thing. So apparently, like when we see the cannibal scenes during the winter, some are at dusk and some are at dawn.
Yes. Yep.
And apparently, um, it's better for finding longitude by occultation during dusk and dawn. So perhaps it
Okay.
was very strategic in terms of the timing of when we saw those scenes with the ritual, pit girl, etc. In terms of dusk and dawn, and tying into this occultation and sextant thing. I don't know, but I think that that's another key piece of information that may or may not be related to the symbol.
Yeah, I definitely think it was important, the timing of when they had the feast and the timing of when Pit Girl ran through the forest and fell into that pit. I think it was all very planned. Like for sure.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I mean, we've talked about this before too. It takes time to drain a body of the blood and get it all
Mhm.
prepared and all that stuff too. So it also could just be that it took that long to actually prepare the body for the feast.
Yeah.
Or maybe there is some relation to the dusk and dawn aspect.
Yeah.
TBD.
Yeah.
Yes. So we talked a little bit at the beginning about whether or not the symbol was protection or warning. There are also theories out there that it is actually protection against bad spirits. So why don't we talk about that Reddit theory, Emily?
Okay, so I found this theory. It is from the user Charleston Chops, and they suggested that the symbol is actually some sort of a charm that is used to protect an area or person from the bad spirits that may have cursed it. And we talked a little bit about this earlier. This theory comes from the notion that Ashley Lyle recommended the book The Hunger, which is based on the cannibalistic true story of the Donner Party. The novel features a section in which the characters find a mysterious symbol and unexplained slashes. The characters then realize that the symbol is a charm against bad spirits, including the hungry ones, which refers to cannibals similar to those in Yellowjackets. It's possible that the symbol will be used as a way to protect the Yellowjackets from the supernatural spirits in the wilderness, with Lottie, again, eventually adopting it as the symbol for her cult.
I mean, that's so interesting. And if it is a symbol of protection, then that's obviously acknowledging that there's something there they need to be protected from, whether
Yeah,
that's a person or, some kind of supernatural entity. Of course, we don't know. But apparently, that book had a supernatural spin to it, which I find compelling because, if they're basing part of Yellow Jackets on the book and there is the supernatural part of the book, then who's to say there's not something supernatural happening in the wilderness?
yeah. I
Ugh.
mean, there's so much that points to it already, like from what we've seen in the first season. Like, I always go back to when Lottie says it didn't want them to leave. Like, that line always sticks out in my head. Um, and I really think that there could be some merit behind that, like for sure.
I mean, I completely agree. I just want to know like how the symbol got there and who carved it. I think that's like the missing key to the thing. And hopefully when we do get Cabin Daddy's backstory, we will see it like the first time it's carved into a tree or on the floor. It does appear to be ritualistic in some way though, based on, Travis's death especially.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they had their seance with it. And what was Jackie's line? Oh, this is like very seancey or whatever.
Totally seancey, yeah.
Yes. So it's interesting that they had a seance in the cabin, given like the creepy vibes that were around, and they leveraged the symbol for it. So I think that's another strategic use of the symbol.
Yeah. And they they put the candles on top of the symbols for their seance. And I know I've said this before. I think the seance was like a jumping off point for them with their ritual. Like, I think a lot of the things that we see in the seance, they will use later in this ritual that they develop. Like, the candles, the symbol are all going to come into play. Even the wording that they said, like, at the beginning, Jackie says something like, "Oh, spirits, like we call to you," or something like that. And I think that there's a really good chance that we're going to see all of that again for sure.
Completely agree. And, I find it interesting that Jackie was one of the ones not buying into any of it. And she's the first one that dies, aside from the plane crash. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and we see that death dream as well, of Jackie dying and everybody welcoming her and all that. So, Cabin Daddy's there, Laura Lee's there, something we've discussed before. We don't see Coach Martinez there.
Mhm.
Obviously Javi's not there because he's out in the wilderness somewhere, but
Mhm.
just the fact that we're seeing the death dream does give it a little bit of that, not necessarily supernatural, but like spiritual, right?
Yeah,
So,
for
I
sure.
mean, it's definitely not out of the realm for there to be some kind of supernatural thing. A lot of people have kind of compared or talked about Yellow Jackets and Lost, kind of
Mhm.
both having that. Did you watch Lost, Emily?
I did.
Yeah, same
I did.
here. Also watched it, and it's a little different. I mean, they got in a plane crash, they're on an island, and boy does Lost go off on some major tangents. I can't
Yeah.
see Yellow Jackets, bringing up like a smoke monster or
No,
like, you
no.
know, but you know what? Lost did have an underground bunker,
They
which
did, yes.
like it's again not out of the realm. Like you just mentioned candles and the seance and all that. When we saw Lottie having her dream in the under her vision in the underground bunker, like there were, or tunnels, whatever you want to call them, there were candles everywhere too. So I've got to think that the candle usage is also, very strategic there. So,
Yeah.
when will we see it again? I don't know.
I definitely think that that dream that she had was something that we will see again. I don't think that it was just put in there for shits and giggles, if you will.
Right. I mean, again, I don't think it's out of the realm that Javi has found some kind of underground shelter, and maybe that was some foreshadowing for it. We don't think Javi's dead because we've seen Luciano filming for season 2. So we're assuming he comes back, and we're not going to see Ghost Javi. But again, like the underground thing, don't think it's super out of the realm.
Yeah. And we talked about where they filmed the lake scenes too. And we saw a picture of what we thought was the lake that they film at. And in that picture, there are tunnels that look like they lead to railroad tracks. So it could be possible that there is some kind of a transportation method out there that they just haven't come across yet, like a road or train tracks, because if there are other people out there, they had to have come from somewhere.
They sure did. And, we have no way of knowing exactly where they are and how far from civilization. I mean, for all we know, there could be some kind of like village or small mountain town like around the next few bends, and the show has made it clear that the wilderness does not want them to leave there. So I don't think they really even got very far when they tried to leave. I mean, Laura Lee, obviously, she very clearly didn't make it. And, the girls didn't make it when they went on their journey. Of course, Van was attacked by the wolves. They saw the river of blood, which, again, are all very shady things to be going on in the wilderness. But,
Yeah.
I mean, we just don't know how close civilization is. Perhaps they should use the symbol as a sextant and measure. But as we know, they may not have been really good at trigonometry, so it may not be their cup of tea or expertise.
I was just gonna say, they said when they were doing their like funeral for all the people that died in the crash, like they said Rachel was really good at trigonometry. Like she always knew her secants and her cosecants and stuff like that. So her dying, like maybe she would have been the one that would have been able to get them out of there.
That's true. The other kind of like interesting thing is when we see the symbol, I get the feeling that there's somebody watching them.
Yes,
I mean, do you
absolutely.
get that? Like the camera
Oh, yeah.
perspective and like the music, it doesn't seem like they're just simply showing it. It seems like there is somebody watching them. Like again, who's watching them? Is it a supernatural? Is it like another cult that's out there? Again, not sure. But
yeah, because when they're at the lake too, like when they first find the lake and they see the reflection from the cabin, again, it looks like there's somebody watching them. Like the angles of the camera and the way that they don't focus on the actual group at one point. They focus on like the background of the group. And I looked for hours, like trying to see if there's anything there, and there's nothing. But they're definitely, like, I feel like they're definitely trying to hint at there being either someone else out there or, like we've said, like the supernatural spirits, whatever, like whatever energy is tied to that part of the land that they're on, like it does not want them to go anywhere.
Right. And now we can say for sure it is either one or the other. It is either a person or it is something supernatural. And we are basing that very fact based, by the way, on Showtime's Twitter bio. So, if go check it out. Be sure to tweet Showtime Yellowjackets. They've been pretty active on their socials lately. They've been liking a lot of our posts, which of course we appreciate. So, thanks to Showtime for supporting us on the socials. We super appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And, speaking of support, we would love for all of you to come and speculate with us on Reddit. We have our new Reddit sub, Yellowjackets Hive, and we are inviting all of you to come and speculate with us. We love having our community of citizen detectives. We love speculating more than anything. Again, we have our Watch It Wednesday post where we talk about the other shows we're watching to fill the time in between now and Yellowjackets season 2. So lots of fun stuff there. Don't miss it. We are also on the usual socials. We are at Yellowjackets Hive on Instagram. We are at Hive After Dark on Twitter, and facebook.com/Yellowjackets Hive podcast. So be sure to connect with us. We are very active. We love creating Yellow Jackets content. And you know what? If there are any fans out there that like to do the edits or fan art or anything like that, email us, yellowjacketshive@gmail.com. We'd love to incorporate your stuff into the podcast or our social media. We are all about creating a positive community where we can all speculate together in harmony. And, we love Yellow Jackets, and we appreciate you all for watching and listening. So thank you.
Yeah, like you just said, we love speculating and theorizing. And if you do too, definitely join our Reddit group. That is the place to go if you want to share crazy off the wall theories and speculate, and even just share random facts or like thoughts that you've had after watching the show. Because I know there have been times when I'm watching and I immediately go to Reddit and I'm like, okay, I just saw this. Like, what do you guys think?
Yes. I mean, gosh, Reddit just has so many different rabbit holes too. Like I talked about, during the episode, that one thread that talks about the occultation and the latitudes, longitudes, sextants, and all that stuff. Like, what a smart person. I mean, I consider myself to be smart, but like all of that stuff, again, some of it went over my head, but I find it very impressive that people can extract that type of wisdom and symbology. And I'm just super impressed. So again, you know what? I'm going to put up that Reddit thread again. It's from IF Corona, IFKARONA. And if you're interested in the symbol like we are, and I'm sure everybody else is, go visit that Reddit thread. I cannot encourage you enough to really dive into that and other Reddit rabbit holes when it comes to Yellow Jackets.
There's so many.
Yes, there are. Yes, there are. Well, I feel like we covered the symbol / the rune pretty comprehensively. But if there's something we missed, or you have a theory that we did not cover, we would absolutely love for you to share it with us. Comment on our socials, even send us a short video. Maybe we'll share it on our social media. We love to get input from everybody in the fandom, and we are here to keep speculating. We've got a few more months to do it, and we will be busting our butts, putting out lots of content to keep you guys busy and occupied before March 24th.
Yes, agreed.
Yes. And you know what? Let's just give Showtime a little love one more time. We're going to put up the Showtime link here for Yellow Jacket Store. You can just Google Yellow Jacket Store on Showtime as well. They've got amazing stuff in their store, including the symbol pendant necklace, very timely for today's symbol episode. And then they've got some other fun gear too. Again, lots of that is on my Christmas list. Hey, if anyone wants to get it for us, like totally happy to share my mailing address. No big deal.
Yep.
But hopefully Santa will be delivering some of those goodies. So yes, absolutely. All right. Well, I think with that, we're going to wrap it up. Again, thank you to everybody who has reached out in support of our new podcast. We are beyond excited to be here. And thank you for having us in the Yellow Jackets community. We will be back soon with another new episode.
Yes.
All right. Bye,
We're
everybody.
So excited.
Yes, we are. Awesome. Well, hey, here's to our first episode and many more. So thanks again. And we're out.
Yep. We'll see you next time.
Bye.